and Tristan Tate. More faith, no religion. Cut the grass low, see the snakes, better vision. Circumcision pause, cut their heads off. Loyalty, no vision of boss. Y'all gon' learn y'all lesson. Class in what's the science?
Read and take, brothers. Every time you speak real, they take something. Either your life, freedom or money, but them snakes coming. 300, yeah, we might be few, but heart off of sparring. Niggas carry sticks to make that bread. Not talking Olive Garden, darling Parton, looking like Dolly Parton. Please get the...
What more do I have to do, man? Look at my hat, man. Look at my hat. Look how I show up on the Amalfi Coast, B. Am I letting y'all down? Let me know. Am I not representing y'all the right way? You know what I'm saying? The fuck? Shit started out.
The disturbing new video appears to support some of the accusations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
We want to warn you that this video you're about to see is extremely graphic. The surveillance footage that was captured inside of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 allegedly shows Combs assaulting then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in a hallway. A now settled lawsuit filed by Ventura claimed that she was trying to leave the hotel after a drunken Combs punched her. The video appears to show Combs chasing her down the hall, throwing her to the ground, and then repeatedly kicking her.
Diddy's Los Angeles and Miami mansions raided by SWAT teams. His sons, Justin and King, in handcuffs in their own yard. Homeland Security tells ET the bi-coastal operation is part of an ongoing investigation. We don't know if the embattled music mogul was home during either raid. ET's reached out to Diddy's reps for comment. Meanwhile, a police presence swarming his high-end Beverly Hills neighborhood. Officers going room to room, carrying zip ties and serious firepower. In the driveway, law enforcement vehicles parking next to, we assume, Diddy's luxury cars. Then, of course, his two sons, 30-year-old Justin and 25-year-old King. At one point, they seem to be sharing a laugh. It's also worth noting, Homeland Security tackles sex trafficking crimes, something Diddy was accused of in a lawsuit by his ex Cassie back in November.
I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full, buck full crazy.
Going crazy.
Crazy.
So I'm interested particularly in the national implications of the indictment unveiled last week against rap mogul Sean Combs, variously known as P. Diddy and other aliases. Correct anything I'm getting wrong here. He reportedly had huge sex parties at his mansion called freak-offs. It's very important, in which he'd bring in male prostitutes, and then his guests would have a bunch of sex and maybe some drugs, and there would be filming. And we do know that he in particular, although I don't know if it's part of the indictment, has a history of being accused by women of beating them up. Pretty ugly stuff. It all sounds perfectly appalling to my Victorian ears, but why exactly is this a federal case as opposed to something that the local vice squad might investigate? And why should those of us who are not invited to freak-offs care whether the feds are involved or not?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where if there are any crimes here, if there was abuse of these women, like physical abuse of these women, if there was sexual assault that happened, if there was, prostitution, which, obviously is still a crime, even though it shouldn't be, going on, these would be local or state offenses. And it seems like, they could easily be taken care of at the local or state level. The feds got involved, though, for a couple of reasons. One, because there's a Mann Act violation. Mann Act, the old Victorian law that says you can't bring people across state lines for immoral purposes like prostitution. So there's a Mann Act charge in there. And then they've also tried to get him for sex trafficking and conspiracy because it kind of is really interesting. It turns the traditional sex trafficking sort of case on its head. Traditionally, you'd say the trafficker is the person who forces someone into sex work and then collects the money. In this case, it's alleging that, Combs paid money to sex workers who were totally consenting, but that he forced or coerced the women that they were having sex with into it. It kind of lists some ways that he coerced them that may be legitimate. It kind of lists some that seem pretty dubious, like they took drugs, and it doesn't say that he drugged them. It just says, that there was drugs, but that he gave them drugs to make them compliant. It says, like he told them that he wouldn't help their careers if they didn't participate. These are things that, someone that is a grown adult could agree to or not agree to, but they don't seem, like they should warrant a sex trafficking charge. And he's also saying that, some of the staff that he worked with, they rented hotel rooms for these parties sometimes. They brought in all sorts of supplies like lube and like drugs and like all sorts of things. And therefore they are in on this conspiracy, this racketeering conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. So that's the other sort of interesting thing here is they're using that to go after all of his businesses, like Combs Enterprises and Bad Boy Records and all of these very profitable and large and long-standing businesses that he has, because they're saying that the whole organization was part of the conspiracy. So I think we kind of have an answer there as to why this is being brought as it is instead of as a, local sort of crime case, because doing that allows them to go after all of the assets that exist, not just from Combs himself, but for all of his, business empire.
Is there, Diddy is not far from where I'm sitting here in Brooklyn. I think he's being held on suicide watch without bail. Seems pretty serious. Is there, Elizabeth, some kind of task force within the FBI that is pointing itself towards sex trafficking? Is there like a funded division within the federal apparatus to go after this stuff?
There is one, but usually that's targeting sex trafficking involving minors, I think. There's this Crimes Against Children's task force. I think this is just brought by the Civil Rights Division, which, concerns itself with this. I really think that the whole division wants in on saying that things are sex trafficking cases because, again, this is the latest in a long line of cases where it's I'm not saying that there wasn't maybe some underlying, abhorrent or criminal behavior going on, but it doesn't fit in the pattern of what sex trafficking laws were intended to go after, what most people think of as sex trafficking, and yet you have it sort of being, slotted into this sex trafficking case for seemingly no reason other than sort of opportunism, either in terms of getting assets or getting attention. And you have these just absurd statements like the federal prosecutor said in court, freak-offs are inherently harmful. And you're just why? Sex parties are inherently harmful, so that's the FBI's business? I mean, again, there might be underlying criminal activity here, but the way that they're going about it seems like they're really just trying to confuse everyone with all these lurid details so that they don't pay too much attention to the fact that the case itself for sex trafficking seems really weak so far.
If freak-offs are inherently harmful, then I'm very worried that everyone on this podcast is going to be charged.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh?
No,
you ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
more money, more problems.